Hello, and welcome to SCG Global Spin. Our host today is Claudia Barrero. Claudia is a partner at PPU and is based out of their Bogota office. She's an expert in mergers and acquisitions of listed companies with extensive experience in capital markets, infrastructure projects, and corporate governance matters. In addition to PPU, she is professor of capital markets at many universities in Colombia. Joining Claudia today is Cristina Sánchez-Vebber. Cristina is a partner at Sánchez Devanny and has 17 years of experience in the legal industry with a focus on corporate transactional work. Cristina provides legal guidance and advice to individuals entering Mexico to do business, as well as assistance to clients that already have Mexican operations that they wish to expand. She also helps clients coordinate their operations with other jurisdictions and provides day-to-day legal advice.
Hi, Cristina. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation. Let me start with a simple question. What do you prefer, the Caribbean or the Pacific coast of Mexico?
Hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for this talk and conversation. And what can I say? I mean, I don't want to discriminate against the Caribbean or the Pacific. They're both beautiful. But in my particular choice would be the Caribbean. I love the color of the water. I love the warmth and it seems to give me, the clear water seems to give me more trust than the Pacific, which is a little darker and it's a little murky and you can't see, although sometimes when you get there, it's very clear, but it's not, the color, the brownish color is a little different. I prefer the Caribbean, but I love them both.
Yes.
I won't discriminate.
They're both fantastic. So let's get into Cristina, how has COVID impacted Mexico?
Oh, it has been, I think, the same for the rest of the world. It has impacted tremendously. It has pushed us into a situation, if it's one of those things that they say in Mexico, they grab you with your hands on the door, con las manos en la puerta, which means that you're unprepared, and that all your, whatever problems you had are going to become more visible, and more attention is going to be placed on that, and you're not going to be able to react in a way that is more resilient when you have all these issues. And Mexico is a clear example of that. I mean, our health system at the time that this hit was was changing, and the government was reforming the law and reforming the secretary. So we were stuck in a situation where we didn't have enough medicines. We did have hospital beds, and we did have some of the equipment, but we don't have the necessary technicians, for example, on health-wise. And then, in commerce, this shutdown has been horrible for the economy. It's been a lot of, the president decided that that companies had to continue to pay employees even though there was no production. And that sent companies straight into bankruptcy. A lot of Mexico works, yes, with a lot of very big companies, but a lot of small informal businesses also. So that, it just created chaos, and companies can't support paying employees if they have no production. So it just sent, I think, the economy into a tailspin, and we continue to be in a tailspin. I mean, it's I don't know when this is going to stop. Our cases continue to go up. People continue to get infected, continue to get sick. I don't know when we're going to be able to have a normal, if there is a normal after this economy again.
This is terrible all around. And Cristina, how has your day-to-day changed from the start of the pandemic to today? Are you still working from home?
Yes, it's changed 180 degrees. So our office shut down right away. We sent everybody home. We had only one person in the office coming in receive papers and documentation, etc. Everybody started working from home, so we had to react quickly, and luckily we were able to do that with our systems department. We had everything pretty much in place. Just some of the administrative functions, we had to acquire equipment and all that. But generally, it's worked okay in that respect. The situation is that children are also at home, and they're also learning at home. So that, it makes it a little bit more difficult, because if you've got small children, you've got to help them, through school. Luckily, I'm in the fortunate few that have the ability to take, my daughter has the ability to take classes online, but most Mexicans that don't have internet or that don't have computers have to do it through the TV. So I guess it's a very ingenious system. But I don't know how it's going to affect learning. I don't know how children are going to be able to learn properly. Education, in my opinion, is the most important thing for a country. And to be able to get out of a situation or out of poverty or out of a crisis, you need education. I don't know how children are going to be able to get that education that they need through a TV system. And, who knows how long this is going to last. So it's difficult. I mean, you've got young children, maybe 5 or 6 years old, that are going to school from 9 to 11 at night, because that's the available time. And then you've got the parents that have to work, and then who's going to take care of the kids? And it's a situation. It's putting more pressure on, also like on a family situation, and where there are a lot of broken families that still live together, so it adds pressure to all that, right?
Yeah, it's basically the same here in Colombia. But even though economies are reopening all around Latin America, it's happening in Mexico too, because as you mentioned, the economy cannot take this any longer. So they are reopening. Are you planning to go back to the office at some point?
Me? Office? What is that? Oh. No, yes, we are. We do have a plan in the office to go back to activities. I mean, we've already put in place all the measures that are required under the Mexican government implemented for businesses. We have all that in place, but it's still very risky. There is a plan. We were supposed to go back now in September, but since Mexico is working on a traffic light system, so we're, depending on the light of each state and even each city, and then even each municipal county, or then you can go back or not to the to the different commerces. So businesses are open. A lot of businesses are open: restaurants, movie theaters, some museums. General business is generally open, but the capacity is down to 30%. So, for example, if you go to a movie, it's at 30%. They can only take 30%. Restaurants, if they have outdoors, they can take more, but they have to have, the distance between the tables. You have to wear a mask. If it's inside, they have 30% capacity. So it is putting a lot of pressure also on businesses. But if you go out, like everybody's working, there's traffic, almost like if nothing had happened, really. But most offices are not working at full capacity yet, because the situation is also because of the schools. Since the schools are not open yet, many families don't have the ability to leave their children with anyone. They don't have, because all the caretakers are usually also home with their children, because if they have to come to work, they have to get on the public transport, which poses a threat, it's a whole different situation. So right now, yes, a lot of things are open, but at 30%, we're still not, there are a few states that have opened completely, but I think it's only one of the states in Mexico. in the whole country. The rest of them are still in the traffic light, in the orange traffic light, which means that's, we're still on alert, high alert.
Yes. So how has collaborating with your colleagues and clients changed because of the pandemic? Because that is a big thing for lawyers.
Well, for example, the courts are open at minimal capacity.
Okay.
So we've been able to interact with our clients because of technology, Zoom and Skype and Teams and Google and all this kind of, all these platforms. So that's not so much of an issue. It's the public, when you have to file documentation with public authorities or you have to follow up on cases, everything is taking longer. So you can't, it's just taking longer. And it's not as efficient as it used to be. You can file documentation, but it's going to take, instead of maybe a few days, it's going to take a few weeks. Everything is like that. Even services like the telephone service, if you don't have to write, if you have a problem with, for example, the internet, it's going to take, instead of, 1 day to come and fix it, it's going to take maybe 3 weeks. Because they don't have the personnel. They don't have the ability, they've cut down on the amount of people that they can have at one time and providing service and all this kind of stuff. So everything is just taking a little longer, which is frustrating to clients. But, there's nothing we can do.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Yes.
It's out of our hands. I mean, we're trying as hard as we can. It's not even going to talk to the person and being in their face all day.
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah. And Cristina, as a foreign lawyer in a company, what should I look for in Mexico? Opportunity. What should I look for in Mexico? Business opportunities.
Well, right now, I think, like as in any country, life sciences and the medical industry is doing pretty well. But I think like the basic needs are also doing very well. So things that used to be considered maybe like a commodity, which were basic needs, but were commodities. So are now again sort of taking a larger importance because people are going back to the basics and what they need. So they see that they don't need, to buy a Louis Vuitton bag, but they do need to eat. So they're going to spend their money on systems or on, like all these, I don't know if you have those, and do you have Rappi and Uber Eats and stuff?
Yes.
So those, for example, have become, like the lifeline for a lot of Mexicans. So you don't have to leave your house and go to the supermarket and expose yourself to potential virus or whatever. So those companies have become, those are basic, but they've become very popular. They're doing very well. Even Uber, like the taxis, or Didi, for example, those have become also extremely important because people don't want to, take public transport. So they feel that Uber or Didi are less of a risk. I also read just yesterday that car sales are up because people are buying, even if they can't really afford it, they're buying cars because they prefer to, so they prefer to take a car to work than to get into the public transport. So I think, there are a lot of industries like automotive industry, because also, for example, in Mexico, the automotive industry supplies a lot of parts to the US. So as long as the investments that are in Mexico continue, if those industries continue in other countries to be critical industries or important industries, I think Mexico, those industries will continue to be important. But for example, energy right now is not doing too well. Mexico, closed down, or not closed down, but did not allow the entrance, or is is stopping renewable energies, for example, from coming in or giving permits, because our president wants to establish a refinery, is working on a refinery and petroleum and all this kind of stuff. But it's not, so that's not going to work for Mexico. And the petroleum industry, Pemex, is suffering a lot right now. It's just not able to sustain the country as it did before. It's not a sustainable energy source. And, not allowing all these other renewable energy investments to come in, I think is harming the country. Eventually, I think it's going to open up, but for now, that's not. Just manufacturing continues to be still very important in Mexico, like automotive and just general manufacturing, assembly. We've got a lot of companies that are investing in Mexico in assembly plants. They're assuming that the cost of labor is going to be lower, especially now, and that there's going to be a lot of demand. Like a lot of employees available to work at a lower fare, which is kind of true because a lot of people have been laid off. So I think just general manufacturing is going to be consistent. It's going to continue to be something important in Mexico.
And are you seeing a lot of opportunistic M&A, bankruptcy?
No, not yet.
No,
not in M&A and not in bankruptcy yet. We're still seeing a lot of construction was considered in Mexico a critical industry. So we're seeing a lot of real estate movement, but still very expensive. I think that's going to go down. Obviously, health and medications and all that are critical industry, so that's going to continue. And all these basic face masks and all this other medical equipment that is necessary. Again, automotive, general manufacturing plants in Mexico. Not many M&As right now. Not many, and just a few. A lot of labor, on the labor and employment side, there's a lot of movement. Not yet in bankruptcy. Yes, renegotiation of contracts and renegotiation of agreements made between the parties,
And I suppose loan agreements,
Yeah.
Banking and finance. Yeah. What are some of the new client activities brought about by the pandemic? New practice areas?
I think, in our case, what we've seen a lot is obviously, and I think a lot of countries, information technology and artificial intelligence and all of these automatizados, ¿cómo se dicen? Automatizations or automated new ways of doing business.
Yes.
Those are things, a lot of trademarks and copyrights issues on those, for example, right now, because they're companies that are springing up, that have all these new ideas, and that. So we have a lot of, we've had a lot of that, and just, in our case, in our business, in Mexico, in our firm, not so much M&A, but yes, a lot of corporate work. So restructuring of home work, compensation, new ways of motivating clients. Motivating employees, working, this home work balance. It turns out that, working at home is being very productive for a lot of people, and people are more productive while they're working at home. So, just restructuring all that aspect of it that companies were not so used to. So we're assisting, a lot of clients in that. It's not so, it's a labor, but it's sort of like a corporate or strategic structure on the business, pretty much. Interesting.
Yes. And this is a difficult one. What is the current outlook for the economy in Mexico?
Not good. Not good. I was just reading an article yesterday that the World Bank is as well. So Pemex, the bonds that Pemex was issuing have now been considered, what are they? Well, I guess it's trash or junk bonds or something like that, they were called.
Ouch.
Yeah. And our growth is minus 18 for the last trimester. So the general, I mean, our outlook is not good right now. But, you know, I think we keep, you know, in a sense, Mexicans are very optimistic and resilient and believe that things will get better. So we keep working and we keep trying to make things better and finding new ways of connecting with people and getting new business and getting investment into Mexico. So it's a combination of bad leadership, in my opinion, in government, and bad leadership in the sense that, you know, he and his cabinet don't know what to do, really. And they want to go back to a time that is no longer real. And with this pandemic, it just can't happen. I mean, you've got people out in the countryside that are starving, you know, and security is an issue. The cartels are gaining more traction because we don't have proper security measures. So it doesn't look very good, honestly. But I think, you know, we'll do better, and we believe in the Virgin, and we you know, the Virgin of Guadalupe, she's our protector, and she will take care of us, and we will make it. No, but we're Mexicans work hard, so I think, you know, eventually we'll it's going to be a few years before we recover, but I think we can do it.
Yeah, we all need to go on. That's for sure. Have there been any significant changes to the law in your country?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Yeah, there have been a lot of change. So before the pandemic started, there were a lot of changes because of the new government. He in his implementation of this 4T, what he calls the fourth transformation, he tried to do many reforms and many changes to the law. Especially, for example, in taxes, a lot of things have changed tax-wise that are a bigger burden for companies and a bigger situation where you have to file a lot of information with the government. So the government is going to have a lot of your information, which is not, you know, and why do they want that? So that they can tax you, right? So that they can decide, you know, where this government believes that all companies, that making money is bad. So you're, you know, if you make money and you're profitable, you must be cheating, or you must be doing something wrong, you know, or you must be corrupt. So on that basis, they're trying to get more information on the companies to see where they can tax them, or where companies are well, not paying the proper amount of tax, because that's where the government would get its money, right? There are a lot of, for example, health reforms, and because, yes, that is true, the health ministry was one of the most corrupt in Mexico. But in this reform, it's causing a situation where we're left without, for example, the basic medicines, or there were, you know, when this pandemic started, you couldn't get even vitamins, for example, you couldn't get them because they would not allow the vitamins to be sold, because they were fixing whatever the situation was on the registrations and all this kind of stuff. So you couldn't stop. They couldn't, you know, companies couldn't sell them, so you couldn't get them. And then now more severely are medicines that are, you know, required for cancer patients, and even for this COVID, medicines for COVID were not allowed. Testing was not allowed because it was not done through the government agencies. And the medicines were not allowed because they had to get the proper registrations. So it's a situation. Labor is also undergoing a lot of reforms, even before the pandemic and now after the pandemic. A lot of reforms, a lot of things have changed on the way companies have to protect their employees, so before, the labor law always used to protect the employee more than the employer. And now it's gone even more towards the employee and against the employer because of this situation. This situation of, if you make money, you must be corrupt, right? And you must be cheating the employees, which is, not all companies are like that. Some, yes, but not all of them. Most companies in Mexico do business well without corruption. And then that's another thing. Lawyers are now the worst enemy of the state. We've been threatened that if we create strategies that the government considers threatens the tax collection for the government, then they're going to prosecute lawyers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
wow. And Cristina, what will the next 18, 24 months look like for your country? What does the post-pandemic new normal look like? Whenever that post-pandemic comes, no?
Yeah, because we're still in the first wave and we're still in the middle of it. Yes. I think I don't know how to respond to that. I think in some ways it's going to have created, it will have pushed Mexico into sort of a digital age that Mexico was not there. And that López Obrador, our president, didn't want to go there. So it just sort of pushed us into that, which is great. But it's going to open up a gap, in this, more people, I think, are going to fall into poverty, and more people are going to fall into a situation where it's going to be very hard to work and to make a living and to not, the peso is devaluating. It's going to be devaluating, I think, into a situation where it's going to be very hard. You're going to work and work and work, and it's not going to be enough money. And that, because the value of the peso is going to lose a lot in these coming months. I think they're in, like Telmex Slim is going to be fine, and the big industries are going to be better. But as a country as a whole, I think we're going to be in a difficult situation. I think we're going to need to work hard, be very creative, and in where we look for investment and how we look for investment and what we offer as a country, for investors to come here. The international ratings for Mexico have also gone down. So we have a lot of things working against us. But I think, there's cycles. And you just have to pick up the pieces and
start
put your
again.
feet up and start, and just start looking at other, it may mean, maybe getting closer to the Chinese, which is a threat to the U.S., but it may mean, establishing new relationships and new alliances. We'll have to see,
Well, we'll have to see. Yeah, definitely. And what is the part of business or life that you think has changed forever because of the pandemic?
The home work situation. I don't think, from what I hear, a lot of people are not going to want to go back to work. They're not back to work because you're working at home, but back to the office. A lot of people feel very comfortable working from home and having this ability to be with family, and then, maybe not working 8 straight hours on a desk, being so. I think that's changed forever. I don't think forever. I don't think,
really?
Yeah. I think companies are going to have to adapt. I mean, unless you have to, like a nurse or I don't know, in manufacturing, someone that has to go and work the machine or whatever. Services, I think, have changed forever. I mean, things that you used to think were not, like doctors. I don't know how it is in Colombia, but in here, doctors are giving appointments through the internet, through Zoom.
Yes. And by telephone.
Yeah.
Just talk to them.
Yeah. I mean, when was that? I mean, unless you're dying practically, they don't have to see you. Really?
That is true. So you think offices will, reduce their office space? Law firms will reduce their office space?
I think so.
Really?
I think so. I mean, I've had a few clients that still want to meet in person, so yeah, we go to the office and we have, the distance and all this kind of stuff, but it's the last, most people are willing to connect through Zoom and feel very comfortable doing it because it saves time. You're not stuck in traffic. You're not wasting the time in traffic. So you can be more efficient, I think, with your time. That's the bottom line, I think.
I think we need to wait and see here in Colombia.
Yeah.
But definitely that's something that will happen. Do you fear any social unrest in Mexico? Do you fear any social unrest in Mexico?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Although reports on crime have not, say that the crime has not increased tremendously from last year. It was actually worse last year than it is now. But I think, people are being pushed into situations where they're without work. They need to feed their families and they're going to go into whatever they need to do, to get that. It's just one of those, I think it's at least in Mexico City, the crime has not necessarily gone up because, still everything is sort of, restaurants are shut down to 30% and all that. But I was just reading again a report last night that was, indicating how, for example, the cartels are getting stronger. Because of the situation, they're enlisting more people because they're providing, what's happening is that all these cartels are providing food and assistance in the smaller communities that need help.
Wow.
So which the government is not doing. And the government is saying, is turning around and saying, you guys don't do that. That's not good for the government. And that's all they say instead of being more forceful. So they're gaining traction. So we'll see how that, I think so. There's a lot of people have lost a lot in these past few months. They've lost jobs, they've lost savings, they've lost family members, they've lost a lot. And that's going to create a lot of frustration. There's no possibility for a lot of people to get new jobs because there are none available at this point. I think there's going to be a situation soon.
Cristina, I think we as a region, Latin America, we are facing so much challenges.
Yes.
But as you were saying, I am pretty sure with hard work and, we'll cross this river. Cristina, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your views with us. This has been very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. It's been great.
And that concludes our recording. Thank you for joining us today. You can find this and many other episodes at scgglobalspin.com.